Hello and welcome to What the F*** Just Happened Today, your essential guide to the daily shock and awe in national politics. I'm Joe Amditis. Let's get to it. It's Thursday, March 10th, 2022. Welcome to day 415. The Biden administration warned that Russia could be preparing to use chemical or biological weapons in Ukraine after Russian officials accused the U.S. of funding secret biological experiments at laboratories in 2 Ukrainian cities. The State Department responded to the allegations and warned that Russia is, quote, inventing false pretexts in an attempt to justify its own horrific actions in Ukraine, end quote. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki added that Russia's accusations were preposterous, saying, quote, Russia has a history also of inventing outright lies like this, end quote. Back in the United States, the 2020 census undercounted 18.8 million Americans, the largest net undercount in 3 decades. The Census Bureau said that while the overall population total of 323 million people was accurate, it undercounted the number of Hispanic, Black, and Native American residents and overcounted white and Asian residents. Census results are used to guide voting districts, congressional representation, and the allocation of an estimated $1.5 trillion in federal funding each year for healthcare, education, transportation, and other public services. Meanwhile, the U.S. Consumer Price Index rose by 7.9% over the last year, the fastest pace of annual inflation in 40 years. The Labor Department also reported that inflation rose 0.8% from January to February, up from the 0.6% increase from December to January, reflecting the higher cost of gasoline, food, and shelter. The Federal Reserve, meanwhile, is expected to announce the first in a series of interest rate hikes next week aimed at slowing inflation. In other news, the TSA will extend its travel mask mandate for airplanes and other public transportation through mid-April. The mandate will extend at least through April 18th, while the CDC works with, quote, government agencies to help inform a revised policy framework for when and under what circumstances masks should be required in the public transportation corridor, end quote. The TSA said it expects the average daily passenger traffic to be above 90% of pre-pandemic levels for the rest of the month due to spring break travel. In D.C., Attorney General Merrick Garland says the January 6th investigation will continue until, quote, we hold everyone accountable, end quote, calling it the most urgent investigation in the history of the Justice Department. Garland added that the Justice Department will not shy away from investigations that may be seen as, quote, controversial or sensitive or political, end quote. Last week, the House committee investigating the insurrection alleged that Trump and his allies, quote, engaged in a criminal conspiracy to defraud the United States, end quote, in order to overturn the 2020 election. The Republican National Committee, meanwhile, sued the January 6th committee, seeking to block the panel's subpoena of data from the RNC's fundraising platform vendor. The House committee said it needed the Salesforce data to investigate how Trump and the RNC used the platform to disseminate false statements about the 2020 election and how they impacted supporters who read them. According to committee spokesperson Tim Mulvey, the Trump campaign and the RNC solicited donations by pushing false claims of widespread voter fraud between November 2020 and January 6, 2021, and sent emails that, quote, encouraged supporters to put pressure on Congress to keep President Trump in power, end quote. And finally, Michael Flynn gave testimony before the House committee investigating the insurrection. In November, the committee sent Flynn a letter demanding that he testify about a December 2020 Oval Office meeting wherein Trump and others discussed declaring a national emergency and seizing voting machines. Flynn, however, did not answer any question and instead exercised his Fifth Amendment right. That's all for now. You can find the links and sources for all of these stories on the main website. And as always, visit whatthefjusthappenedtoday.com for the latest news and headlines. Until next time, I'm Joe Amditis.